Good morning. It's a little before 10:30 a.m. in Dallas, Texas. I'm going to make this very brief. At some point in time, I composed a report, understanding as I did that there were connections between a specific contractor that provides military items and equipment as well as systems, and also provides technology associated with pension system. And I composed this report regarding its relationship with the local fire department. Did you want to see me make a gang sign? You mean this one? So I composed this report in the end of 2017. And as I composed this report, one of the things I understood is that Raytheon specifically was engaging a process of in trying to entice people into engaging in the development of that which was being advertised on its sites. This had first happened to me at the beginning of 2017, where, for whatever reason that I was not aware of at the time, they were attempting to try to get me to see stuff on the site and engage with it. I came across it in a search for something else that was actually policy related. I ignored it at the time. It was revisited later. In the course of doing this, they were advertising information on their site, and it was apparent to me that what was happening is there was some underwriting that was attempting to try to lure people, as if there was some competitive scheme, and if you engaged in it, you could win. Somebody's been playing this. I contended that a good deal of the anti-BDS movement activities and a lot of the reaction against the protests of the legislation that sanctioned organizations that were calling for BDS had to do with the fact that they were being lured in and perhaps even tortured and extorted for an attempt to compel them to cooperate with the co-development of technologies that they very well may already have been used in connection with in the past. And that what was happening is it was a sort of spiritual test as well as a sort of psychological test. That the consideration was that the BDS movement had been specifically developed as a way to try to flip it. And they were going to research specific companies in regards to specific matters and sanction them, whereas other companies would not be sanctioned, ones that would have had materially different political aims. Now, I've addressed this before with people that were active in the BDS movement in the Bay Area, specifically when there was an effort to try to get somebody to acknowledge that there had been a call put out for people to work formally and officially on a campaign. This was around the inauguration of 2016, or the State of the Union address of 2016. And one of the specific matters I was concerned with is why would the BDS movement focus on specifically weapons companies without focusing on other companies, including infrastructure companies? If it was a matter of addressing the connection with things that were important to people that they were being dispossessed of, including in manners that disproportionately impacted their economic development and sovereignty, why was the exclusive focus on weapons of mass destruction as opposed to the things that people need? And by the way, the things that the people from whence these activities were expropriating, including intangible property. Why were the things that we really needed and really wanted not being targeted in the same manner? It was a practical consideration. It was a tactical consideration. But now we're in a situation where I've watched for years where benchmarking connected to what are identified as yields related to workers' rights, including international workers' rights, including in sectors that had previously been disadvantaged or disempowered, seem to correlate with this specific competitive scheme. I've already gone on record regarding my understanding of my relationship as a former journalist and newspaper editor in connection with a global scheme specifically connected to Raytheon, having to do with the murders of people in the media. There is a specific and striking correlation with the murders of journalists, specifically in Pakistan, or identified as being involved with Pakistani media that goes back over 20 years, as well as members of the media, and including members of the media that are also political activists, including ones that are considered political leadership in their own communities in Honduras. I know that I am directly and materially connected to the murder of Daniel Pearl and how this factors into long-standing policy misrepresentation involving relationships between the United States and Iran. But it's unacceptable. If at any point in time you considered yourself to be a professional as a journalist or in the media or an educator, you need to know it is unacceptable for you to use your class time with minor students to willingly and knowingly participate in the development of any research connected to military armaments. In the United States of America, there is a very specific amendment that is called the Mansfield Amendment. It requires that anybody whose academic work is used in research and development connected to anything that would then be contracted with or through or made available with or through the Department of Defense be apprised of the intent to use it before it is engaged. I have no evidence that that amendment has ever been retracted, and it still stands. It still stands going all the way back to when I was in school, including in school aboard a DoD institution. If you are a parent of a child, including a minor child, and you agreed to waive liability in using your child for R&D connected to military weapons development, you're going to be held accountable. If you were not provided with an opportunity to engage in a contract relationship around waiver of liability for allowing your child to be used in R&D connected to the development of any sort of weapons or weapons technologies, then be aware that if you are to be approached about this, there are ramifications. If you are an adult or were legally above the age of consent at the time that your education was used in R&D for weapons development, then please prepare whatever paperwork or documentation you have regarding your negotiations or your agreement to waive liability or to be remunerated, including being connected to awards regarding future royalties or copyright or patent rights connected with those technologies at the time you commenced your research project. If you have not, be aware there are ramifications for what has been revealed. If you were somebody that experienced an occupational hazard because in performance of your job, somebody was allowing for illegal contract bidding to interfere with you being provided with safety, you had no right under any circumstances to allow even for an alleged collective bargaining effort to engage you in competitive bidding on anything connected to contracting for research and development for military armaments or systems and technologies connected to their deployment. If you did, and you have any agreements that you agreed to cooperate or waive liability, you need to prepare that paperwork as soon as possible. If you are involved with a weapons company that has contracted with the Department of Defense since 1983, you need to prepare all paperwork regarding the terms under which you were allowed to broker for whatever the confidentiality or classified nature or secrets associated with your contract bidding, and you need to provide a verifiable authentication of who was authorized to give it to you. You have until the end of the day. Within the next 72 hours, there are going to be movements to take into consideration what was just revealed. By this time, if you are still in the United States from another country, and you understand yourself to be under some sort of diplomatic security, then please be apprised that you are going to be contacting next about these matters. But as I said, I expect you out of this country by the end of the day. Business day, 5 o'clock p.m. East Coast time.